Hello, this is Ellie Granger. Today, on A Closer Look, Joan Thomas welcomes Mr. Russ Head, owner of The Travel Connection and a seasoned world traveler whose journeys have taken him across the United States, Europe, and around the world. For more than 30 years, Russ has helped people discover not just new places, but new perspectives, lasting friendships, and unforgettable memories. Join Joan Thomas for A Closer Look on 360 News.
Today we're joined by Mr. Russ Head, a seasoned world traveler with a passion for exploring the United States, Europe, and destinations around the globe. Over the past 40 years, he's experienced a wide range of cultures, landscapes, and travel styles, gaining valuable insights into what makes a journey memorable. He also owns The Travel Connection, where he brings the first-hand travel experience and enthusiasm for helping others explore the world. So we're delighted to have him with us today to share his perspective on travel and what makes an unforgettable trip. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, well, thank you for asking me. And I think that this whole podcast that y'all are producing is something I really love because it is trying to find the authentic and genuine stories of the people you interview.
Exactly. So if we get right to it, what first inspired you to begin the travel agency that you own, The Travel Connection?
Well, if I could go back a little bit, and the bigger story is sort of interesting because I started out as the little boy who was too afraid to go next door to spend the night. But I think in God's plan, sort of everything took a while, but it was moving in the same direction. When I was a little boy in second grade, my mother had a lot of National Geographics. We were always planning trips that we never actually took. But eventually I did take those trips. But in the second grade, we do dioramas, and I would always do my book report on a state. So there were little seeds even then. Then when I graduated high school, it was too overwhelming to go to the University of Georgia. So I went to Gordon, and over that ease of transition, I eventually kind of got out of my shell a little bit. And then all along, right from the start of the assassination of President Kennedy, I became fascinated with people. Who are they? What makes them tick? What got them to where they got? So I developed a love of biography. And through biography over time, it caused me to want to study history. And from history, I'd read so much biography that I knew I wanted travel, as I would later explain to my father. That's a great story in itself when he asked me that, but it was an experiential extension to an academic education. And I vaguely thought, I want to teach, but before I do that, I want to see some of what I've learned. And I want to keep journals because I'd read that in the Victorian age and everything, people kept journals. That was fantastic. And so eventually, the first travel was after I graduated college. I wanted to go see some of these places I had read about, but I couldn't just do it. It had to pay its way. So I worked in resorts for 5 years. Mackinac Island, Michigan, Palm Beach, Florida, Bar Harbor, Maine, and Montana and Nantucket. And so over time, when I came back, I taught school for a year. That was, God's got a big toolbox, and he emotionally broke me down to say, I don't think this is what I want to do. So we had started a travel agency, and that's a whole story in itself, but we had started a travel agency. And over time, some local lady said, gosh, we really wish you would take us where you've been. And eventually I got frustrated and I said, I don't know what I'm doing, but if you'd like to go to Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont for fall foliage, then we'll do it, but just bear with me. Well, for them, it made it all the more exciting. Oh boy, we're part of this adventure. It was a hit. They wanted me to take them to New York at Christmas, and then where can we go next year? Other people in town said, we saw what you did for them. Would you do it for us? And it began a snowball to what is now about 330 tours spaced over 33 years. Now, I started the travel agency in 1983, but that was about 10 years of building capital and things so that I could eventually go into tours without being desperate, saying, hey, it's got to go. It was icing on the cake.
Well, did you ever imagine 40 years ago that it would become so successful and so popular?
No, I'm very fortunate that it has become popular. I think that one thing that is a great blessing of the Lord to me is that I've never lost that childlike, ravenous passion and imagination for life. And life for many people, understandably, is very difficult. And life can sort of beat that out of people. I'm still largely a little boy at heart. And when I take people on trips, I want them, they get excited with me because I'm still excited and I'm still learning. And I have been to many of these places so many times, and I learn something every time I go. The subject is a bottomless pit, and I never get to the bottom of it.
Well, do you remember your first trip? And if you do, hopefully you do, how did you feel when you first took your first trip with people?
Well, when those two ladies asked me, I said, yeah, I'll do it. Word got around town. People knew my daddy. They were willing to trust me. And so they said, before it was over, we had a friend of mine drove the other van, Tommy Hankinson, and then we had about 7 other people. So we're in 2 7-passenger vans. And I think for me at that age, I knew they were forgiving. They said, we're just thankful to be here. This is a big adventure. We know you're not a professional at this. And so I guess there's in some ways more pressure on me now than there was before initially. So I think I just took a great joy in, I want to show you this and I want to show you that. And over time, one of the great things is that I just show people what excites me. And it just so happens maybe that it seems to excite them too. And they get caught up in my passion and enthusiasm.
What does travel give you personally that staying home can't give you?
Well, I will say this, that people ask me, what's your favorite place in the world? My favorite place is in the moment where I am right now. And that includes being with you, having this conversation. It's very hard for me to pick a place because I live so in the moment, and that, yes, I love the Maine coast. I will answer one question that maybe you haven't asked, but you might wonder. If you had to pick one place that you could only go for the rest of your life, you had to go back there, where would it be? And oddly enough, it would probably be the coast of Maine, because when I lived and worked there for 2 summers and falls, I kept extensive journals. As I say, I'd become a new believer in Christ. I kept a journal, and I was there by myself. And the combination of those 3 elements, I say, in those 5 years of travel, the Lord and I built the psychological, spiritual house that would carry me into the future. And we built it nail by nail, plank by plank, shingle by shingle. And that house, built in those 5 years, was so fundamental and eternal. It is the house I live in today, virtually unchanged. And it was just such an exciting time. And eventually, when I wrote my book, Scholar Gypsy, I was able to go back to those journals, reread them, and they were very helpful in making moments come alive.
So many people don't bother to write things down or keep track of anything, and even if I didn't want to do that, I have found that the times I did was so meaningful to me. I'm like, oh, I forgot about that.
It really
and it comes
is.
back,
I would encourage everyone with the computer, the ability to write your thoughts down, even if you don't have a long attention span. Think about a moment in your life that was significant and transformative. And sit down at the computer. Maybe you say, I don't have enough time. You got 5 minutes. Start the story. What moment was significant and transformative? What did it feel like? And how did it change the course of my life? And work on that and work on it until you've got it right. And if you have a loved one or children, give that to them, and I guarantee you they'll be begging you for more. And one point you brought up is that it's such a it's a beast. To write is a beast because you're mining your mind and your memory and your life. But when you pull out that thread from the past, things come with it that you had forgotten. But also, like an impressionistic painting, that when you're right up at it, it looks like a bunch of jibble-jabble. But when you back off from the perspective of distance and time, all of a sudden you see that there's a great theme in your life and a great, it begins to make sense in a way that you couldn't quite see when you were right up on it.
Well, you're very right in that people are very interesting, and I love biographies too, so that makes perfect sense to me. If I talk about your business for a second, what exactly you call yourself a tour manager now instead of a travel agent. What exactly does a tour manager do behind the scenes? And I know that now you're a pro, but how much planning goes into one of your trips?
Well, tons of planning. But I want to I use the term tour manager. But if you ask me, what am I truly? It's an art form for me. And I say, if you really want to know what I do, I'm an architect of transformative experiences. And the people that go with me, that is a stage upon which they enter. And what I see is I'm writing a story or I'm painting a painting. And halfway through that experience, they come in and people the story and enter into the painting. And together we write the ending of the story. And so, a lot of my tours planning begins 3 years out. But one thing that I think has kept my tours so fresh and imaginative is that the Lord has blessed me with a ravenous passion and curiosity for everything. So there's nothing I'm not interested in. And it's funny how everything over time has found itself into my work. I mean, I might think, gosh, I learned that 30 years ago and I thought I'd never use that. And I do. For instance, I'm fixing to go to Michigan, Mackinac Island, and Chicago and Green Bay. And so I'm a big Hemingway fan. And he's part of the people that have inspired me to want to travel and everything. Well, in that itinerary, I plugged in Horton Bay, Michigan. That's a place most people don't know about, but it was transformative in Hemingway's life. It's in northern Michigan. It's where he went as a little boy and as a teenager. That's where he first began to write the sketches. That's where he first learned his craft for writing. And it's a little hole-in-the-wall town. There's nothing, 3 houses there. But there's so much story behind that. And that's what I love doing, creating something out of nothing, in the sense that somebody would pass through that town on any given day and say, well, I don't even remember that town. But that's why people have great stories. And there's a great story with every place you go through. The key is if you can find out what those stories are.
I can't imagine that most people would pay such attention to the things that you are just now talking about.
Yeah,
But it's so wonderful when we do
yeah.
because it opens up so much. And it makes me wonder, has travel changed over the years or in the past
Well,
or for you?
I think this. I've learned a lot. I think in my book, I have a whole I have many parts of the book, but part of it is uh, just small pieces in the book about things that are important to me. And one is how art, philosophy, history, and psychology have transformed how I create a trip. And so, for most people, to give you an example, for most people, they said, well, what people want is to see as much as possible. Well, no, they don't want to see as much as possible. What they want, if I scout out an area and I see 8 different places, then I say, what are the 4 experiences that I want to present? Think about a painter. He can't paint a whole scene, but he picks out what does he paint in this scene that evokes what he wants to spiritually feed people. Before I go on a tour, and while I'm on a tour, quite often I pray what I call the loaves and the fishes prayer. Lord, in this day, I'm not smart enough. There's ambient noise in the day. There's all the factors that go in. But I want you, through the power of the Holy Spirit, to take this mishmash of stuff and feed these people on whatever it is they need feeding. Because for me, I want travel to be so much more. I want it to feed people. I want it when they come home from a trip. I want them it to have been transformative. The tagline of my business is transformative events through travel or something. So I think when they come home, I want it to affect the way they are challenged, the way they think, the way they design a new room, the way they design a garden, that when they come home, they're challenged and transformed in some way. And therefore, I dream big, and I think maybe I don't accomplish everything I want to, but they benefit by my big dreams and my hopes for them.
Well, you mentioned loving being by yourself at that
Yeah.
time, but what makes group travel special for so many people?
Well, I think that one important factor is that travel can be stressful for some people, particularly if it's their one big trip of the year. It can be stressful. We don't know where to go, what to see, how do we, and people have learned, fortunately, some way they trust me that whatever Russ thinks is worthy of seeing, we like it and we want it. So when they go with me in a group setting, they don't. Now I want an equal balance of free time where they don't have to worry or stress over what are we going to see, do we need tickets, blah blah blah. They're not stressed out by that. So I suck all the stress out. So now they're comfortable. They don't have to worry, just follow us. Then they're fed spiritually by whatever we're doing. And then equally as important is the amount of free time. And this is what other tour companies don't get. The free time. The Southern Italy trip I just did, we had activities in the morning and free time in the afternoon. And that's where they begin to take what they've learned, or they're in a safe atmosphere. They go out and make their own discoveries. And so for some, time well spent may be sitting in a cafe having a glass of wine and watching time go by. For some, it may be shopping. And I'm not going to
Underplay. Underestimate.
Underestimate the value of shopping for people, because they make and shopping, just like the cuisine of an area, is a cultural repository of the culture, the cuisine, the land, and the arts of that place. So I used to think, only I'm not here to eat. No, you are here to eat, because restaurants are culinary repositories of culture and cuisine and history and legacy and land, etc. So
I always wanted to bring something from a shopping trip because it would make me remember, bring a little piece of it home with me. And it's funny, I was talking to somebody yesterday who got stuck in Israel for 2 weeks due to this conflict. And they said they were worried about it, but they really ended up enjoying those 2 weeks because they could just do whatever they wanted to do.
Yeah, so that is, I tell people, number one, people ask me, they said, do you get bored going back to the same place? And I say, no, fascinating places are like fascinating people. And you would never say, well, I had the most interesting conversation with somebody yesterday, and I hope I never see him again. No, you want to go back and extend the fascinating conversation you're having. And so I say all great places get only better after you've done the obligatory sites. When you can wake up in Rome and you've already seen the Colosseum, the Forum, the Pantheon, and you just wake up and you wander the streets, you poke your head in a shop, you sit in a cafe. That's so rich an experience. So that's why when people say, well, I've been on one trip with you and I see you're returning to Rome or Paris or wherever, and I've already seen that, I say, please go again. Just don't do what we do and wander and feed yourself.
That sounds wonderful. So I'm sure you've made lifelong friendships. Do the people that go on your trips do the same thing?
Yeah. Well, one thing is I've made lifelong friendships with the people that go on these trips, and that's a rich experience. And then I have lifelong friends that we create tours together, my guides and my drivers and everything. And and people do that too. They meet people, and all what they really do within the group, they meet and develop lifelong relationships with people they can either travel with again or go visit or whatever. And I think you asked a question earlier about what are the benefits of group travel. Not only me sucking the stress out, they don't have to worry, but in their free time, they feed themselves and they develop relationships with other people on the tour or with a place in which they develop lifelong relationships.
Well, you've been a lot of places, and so is there a European destination that your travelers seem to fall in love with the most?
Well, I probably have to say, people love Italy. And I think part of it, and they also love French and Swiss Alps. Mm-hmm. They're two different experiences in a way. People love the culture, the cuisine, the laid-back feel of Italy. They love the scenery and extraordinary scenery in Switzerland. Mm-hmm. I mean, Italy has beautiful scenery too. But I would think the easiest sell of a trip is probably Italy. But people, as they begin to go and see the riches of travel, they become eager to travel to other places. And I think later this summer, I'm going to do the English countryside in London, which is 4 nights. And I'm big about lingering longer and giving people the free time to go out and find your own place to eat. And that is so magical, because when you don't do a 1 night here, 1 night there, but you linger longer in a place, that place becomes a whole different spiritual feeding ground than just a place to stay and spend the night. They go out, hey, we ate in a great restaurant last night. Or they may have a bum restaurant, but that's okay too. They're making their own decisions and becoming part of the travel. But so I'm going to do 4 nights in Lake District, 4 nights Cotswolds, 4 nights London. And that way, those are 2 great countryside areas that are much beloved, not only by world travelers, but people in England themselves. And then we're going to go, it's in August, so we can go in Buckingham Palace and in the Houses of Parliament.
Oh, great. I loved Italy and I loved Switzerland, but I can say that the one time that I actually went on a tour where everything was planned every minute, I was so tired.
Yeah.
And I couldn't really enjoy it because of that.
Well, this is one way that philosophy has helped me learn about how to build a trip. I read a book, or part of a book, called The Importance of Living, and there was a chapter in it called The Importance of Loafing. And this Chinese philosopher, Lin Yutang, said, what makes this room we're in aesthetically pleasing is not just where the desk is, the chairs are, but equally as important is this significant amount of unused space. And when you fill up a trip with activity, you suck the spiritual potential of lingering longer. And so that's one thing I always tell people. People say, I love talking about trips. You want to know what my trip's like? If you want to see as much as possible, I've got a whole list of tour companies you might like, but I'm not going to do that. And then Steve Jobs used to always say, part of what you're doing is educating about people about what they need rather than what they think they want. I said, you don't want to see as much as possible. Let me describe what a day with me is. And at the end, they say, okay, I understand. That's what I want.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful. I have to say that tour was from somewhere else a long, long, long time ago. And I would fall asleep on the bus because I'd be so tired, so I'm so happy to hear you say that. I never really thought about the spiritual aspect of what you're saying. That makes such perfect sense. If someone has never been to Europe, just picking Europe as an example, where would you recommend that they begin? Italy?
Well, let me say this. If I might say Italy, and it's according to where they're from. Are you a big city person? Or were you born in the countryside? So many people just love and react well to countryside. It's peaceful. It's beautiful. It's not the stress and density of large numbers of people, of traffic, of what. But if you're a people person, then you might react better to a city. The biggest question, I think, is look within yourself and say, who am I and where would I want to go? And go and feed your spirit in that place. Don't take somebody else's answer for your life. Is there a place you've always wanted to go? Oh, I've always wanted to go here. It might be a place I've never been, or I don't care to go. But the thing about life is, I have in my book, I have a whole series of spiritual essays, and one of my essays is on a sort of a psychological spiritual trinity called know yourself, love yourself, and be yourself. And part of that, in the rat race of human life, a lot of times people never get to know themselves. My journals were wonderful, and my spiritual life with the Lord is wonderful in helping me get to know who I am. Once you know yourself, you realize, hey, you're a mixed bag of strengths, weaknesses, flaws. Nobody's perfect. Be at peace about that. David, on one hand, said, I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. Revel in your identity. Feed your identity. Take joy in your identity. But on the other hand, realize, hey, I'm a sinner too, and I'm flawed. And be at peace about that. And then the third thing is, we are all so desperately in need of you to be you. So even though can be a lonely place, a challenge, walk out on that stage of life into a silhouette just big enough for you and be all the you God created you to be. That's what we're desperate. So when I think of travel, a lot of travel, why are we going to Horton Bay in Michigan and Insignia? Because first of all, it feeds me spiritually, and I think it might tap people into a part of themselves that they haven't tapped into. And I'll probably begin to talk with them about the fact of, hey, why don't you think about writing some of the stories of your life?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Well, I know that you've loved everywhere you've been and learned probably so much from every place. But is there a particular destination that dramatically changed you personally? And do you think travel changes people the way it has changed you?
I think that the part of my life that prepared me for the rest of life is,
Mm-hmm.
and I would encourage people, well, I'm a person who, I'm an introvert extrovert.
Mm-hmm.
My alone time feeds me to be an extrovert.
Right.
And so the time of life for me that was so important was when I traveled alone as a new believer by myself, and I kept journals and I learned who I was. And so that was so transformative and actually prepared me for the rest of life, for what I'm doing now. Because I think people, like going back to that thing that is sad, and I don't know, a lot of people love passion. And if they don't have it, they want to be around somebody who has passion. And so having the life I've had and feeding myself and feeding on that passion of what I love, art, literature, the Lord, history, biography, living with these people. When I read a biography, I'm with that person. I'm trying to see, what can I learn from that person? When I wrote my book, that's how I wrote it. This is what happened in my life, and this is what I learned from it. So I wanted that book to be a mentorship. That's why when I finished it, though it grammatically may not be perfect or whatever, I'm totally at peace with the fact that I told the story, and it'll probably be a one and done book because I've said what I wanted to say. And I'm a real anal retentive person. I kind of think, oh, I thought when I finish this book, I know I'm going to think of things I wish I'd said no.
Mm-hmm.
I'm, 8 years ago, whatever, that when I wrote this, I'm 8 years on or 6 years on or whatever. I'm totally at peace that if you want to know who I am, read this story.
If you could give people one major travel tip, what would it be? And it's probably not like, don't forget this or that. It's probably something spiritual.
Well, I would say this. These are some travel tips. Travel to a place that feeds you spiritually, feeds your interests, your passions. Don't try to see too much. Mm-hmm. Linger longer. Feed on that experience. Two of my really transformative experiences, and is both Andrew Wyeth related, who's a great American artist. I went to both his locale in Cushing, Maine, and in Chadds Ford, Pennsylvania. I'm by myself. Well, in Chadds Ford, I'm by myself. The other was with my brother, but I was just soaking in the experience. A guy drives up in a truck in both cases. What are you doing? I said, I'm a Wyeth fan. I'm soaking in the experience. Do any of the Olson family in Cushing, Maine, or the Kerner family in Chadds Ford, do any of them still live here or still alive? Yes. I said, well, are you a Olson or a Cushing? Yes. And so people see that you're so genuinely and authentically passionate about it. They take me through these houses before their museum. The guy said, hey, follow me up here. I'll feed you breakfast. I'll, I'm wandering in New York trying to find where the location of the studio of Edward Hopper is, the great artist from the last century. And I'm thinking, I just want to find where it was, having no idea that I would actually be able to go in it. So I'm knocking on doors in Greenwich Village. Yeah, you know where I knew about where it was, northeast corner of Washington Square. But I'm knocking on doors, nobody knows. I'm poking around. I find a carriage path behind this that goes, but they're that old that when you had carriages. I'm looking at rooftops, and I see there's a skylight. I bet, and I think when I step out intentionally to feed myself, God always blesses that moment. So I see this skylight. I said, bam. It fits in with where the locale was, and an artist would have a skylight. No sooner than I think that, then a woman materializes out of nowhere. And I turn around, I don't know where she came up behind me. I said, ma'am, do you live around here? Yes, I do. I said, well, I don't even know if you know who I'm talking about, but I love the artist Edward Hopper. And if you know anything about him, or if you live around here, you see that skylight up there. Do you think that might be where his studio was? I kid you not. That woman said, I know for a fact it is. It's where I live, and would you like to come see it? God, wow. When you step out intentionally to feed your spirit, God will do some amazing things. You know, I mean, he has fed me all my life on these rich experiences. And let me say this, that investing in yourself in spiritual experiences are like making spiritual deposits on a daily basis. And they have compounding interest. And I think one reason why people enjoy my tours is they're feeding at a well of my experience that is compounded through intentional moments over a lifetime. And they're drawing on that rich well of experience.
After all these years, you're so clearly excited, and your enthusiasm is so contagious. I've been absolutely captivated by everything you've said. But after all these years, what do you think keeps you excited about taking people on these journeys? And I don't say destination, it's a journey.
Yeah, I think because, one, I'm dealing with a fascinating place, like a fascinating person, and I'm extending my personal conversation with it. So and I always tell people, I know y'all are excited to see Paris, or I know you're excited to see Tuscany, but the Italians have a saying that the more you know, the more you love. And I think the more I learn about these places, I want to know everything about them. I'm excited to go back and how it will feed me. And I think people that go with me get caught up in that passion and enthusiasm. And I'm just reveling in who God created me to be. And that seems to be part of the secret sauce that is all part of this experience. So I'm not sure if I've wandered off and answered that question. What was that?
Just what keeps you so excited?
I mean, I'm excited because it's feeding me too. Yeah.
Well, I started to say that I would love for you to do a tour of the moon one day, but I know, that was just a thought. But what would I think I know the answer to this. What would your final destination trip be?
It's where I'm headed.
I know.
Which is heaven. And if you read about what Jesus said in John 16, 17, and 18, I mean, it's such an incredible experience that Jesus said, we will need a new body to experience it. So as ecstatic as I am about this earthly life, Jesus said, Father, I would that they be with me where I am, that they may behold my glory. I'm beholding a lot of God's glory down here. But to know that this is where I'm headed, not because I'm good enough, not because I earned it, because Jesus said, if you believe in me and trust me, then this is a free gift I give to you. And so my confidence in going to heaven in my future is not based on me, it's based on him and what he did for me.
Right.
So that's my ultimate trip. That's the one trip. In planning, I get so involved in the wonder of a trip that I'm as exciting in the planning. Like right now, I'm learning so much about Michigan Mackinac. I'm looking at videos that I've looked at before. But sometimes you get as excited or more excited in the planning than you do the actual trip. Heaven is the one place where it will be so incredible that you'll need a new body to experience it.
I thought I knew you before, but you have just shown me that you're probably one of the most interesting people I've ever met. Is there anything else you'd like to leave with the audience?
I don't think so, because I've been genuine and authentic in my talk with you, and I think you can never tell the whole story. So we'll end on a principle that Ernest Hemingway said.
Okay.
Ernest Hemingway in writing said you can never tell the whole story. So he based his writing on the iceberg theory, that only part of the iceberg is visible, but the integrity and the meaning is as important what lies beneath the ocean as what lies above it. And if you tell a story true enough, then people will gain from all that you didn't say from what you did say. So no, I haven't told you everything, but in trying to be genuine, truthful, and authentic, you'll be fed spiritually by it. So I appreciate the time you've given me.
Oh, well, we appreciate your time, and so I can't thank you enough for talking to me and everyone who will be listening. It's been such a joy and such a treasure.
It seemed to go by pretty fast.
Yeah, I could do it another hour next time.
Yeah, maybe we could come back and do something next time, because I do have a thing that I'm passionate about, is the ability for people to write their own story and what it will mean to them and those they love.
Well, thank you, Russ Head.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.